Hey y'all, in this video I'm going to go over 3 stories of people that were diagnosed as either brain dead or severely brain damaged and scheduled for organ harvesting. If you did not watch the first video in this series that talks about how organ harvesting is done with brain damaged individuals, please do watch that. Click the little eye icon on the upper right of the screen and that'll take you to that first video. The point of this video isn't that we should keep people on life support forever. The point is, in 2 cases, they would have undergone live organ harvesting, meaning they're not given anesthesia, they're given paralytic drugs, and they're kept alive on a ventilator for 4 to 6 hours while all of their internal organs are harvested. I chose the following 3 stories because I thought they were the most interesting and because they also had good video of the families and the person involved. So I hope you enjoy them. Let's begin. This first story is about Trenton McKinley, a 13-year-old boy from Mobile, Alabama. In May of 2018, Trenton received a severe head injury while riding a cart being pulled by a go-kart. The cart turned over and crushed Trenton's skull. He was rushed to the hospital where he was comatose. During this time, his heart stopped not once, but 5 times, and he was revived each time. After his heart stopped for the 5th time, McKinley's mother stated that the doctors told her they would not revive him again unless she agreed to donate his organs, and that there were 5 children waiting to receive them. His mother agreed in order to ensure they continued to provide health care for her son, and both parents signed the paperwork for organ harvesting. While arrangements were being made to harvest his organs, Trenton began showing signs of life. Take note that one reporter mentions Trenton showed signs of cognition within 48 to 72 hours of the accident.
Doctors thought he was brain dead, and his parents signed paperwork to donate his organs to save 5 other children. But then, the day before doctors were set to take him off life support, Trenton woke up. Now he's in rehab, and although he has a long road ahead, he's getting stronger every day.
All right.
He was dead a total of 15 minutes. When he came back, they said he would never be normal again. They told me the oxidation problems would be so bad to his brain that he would be a vegetable, even if he made it.
But he's a miracle.
And he just amazes everybody.
No other explanation but God. There's no other way that I could have came back. I should make way better decisions. Like when I go back to my friend's house, and he's like, let's go ride the go-kart. Well, I'll drive.
The hospital says that Trenton arrived on March 9th and began to show signs of cognition within the next 48 to 72 hours. And you heard Trenton say there is no explanation,
no other explanation
but God. And he said that even the doctors told him that.
How often does this happen? Does something like this happen?
Not often, and without knowing the details of this case because of health privacy laws, it's really hard to say exactly how this happened.
In 2008, Zach Dunlap was a 21-year-old living in Oklahoma when he suffered a catastrophic head injury during an ATV accident. Within hours of arriving at the hospital, a doctor suspected brain death and ordered a blood flow scan. The test results showed absolutely no blood flow was moving through Zach's brain. His parents saw the test results and were told that Zach was brain dead. His parents agreed to organ harvesting. Zach was officially declared dead 36 hours after the accident, and a helicopter was en route to transfer him to a hospital that does transplants. 2 of Zach's cousins showed up at the hospital to say goodbye, and one of the cousins decided to do his own brain death test.
The prognosis couldn't have been worse. With no brain activity evident, Oklahoma authorities were notified that Zach had died. While his parents struggled to cope with the crushing news, they gave consent for Zach's organs to be donated.
I mean, you saw those tests, right? What did those tests indicate to you?
There was no activity at all, no blood
no
flow
blood
at all.
flow into the brain.
Right.
So you were ready to say goodbye to your son at that point.
We didn't want him as a vegetable, you know. Yeah. We didn't know what he was going to be like, but they said that he was brain dead.
With a helicopter sent by an organ harvesting team scheduled to land, Zach's relatives gathered to say their goodbyes. Zach's cousins, Dan and Christy Coffin, who are both nurses, thought the same thing. And that's why Dan decided to run the shaft of his pocket knife across Zach's foot.
He jerked his foot plumb out of my hand.
Then Dan dug his fingernail beneath Zach's.
That's a tender area, and Zach just threw his hand over here. And by now, this kind of...
He physically moved that arm over his body.
From me, across his body.
But when could anyone be sure Zach could ever be more than a profoundly brain-damaged patient? That answer came in the following weeks and months. Zach would awake, and then some. 48 days after the accident that nearly took his life, Zach came home to a hero's welcome.
Yeah. One thing that you told me that really, I had goosebumps after you told me this, was that the one thing you do remember, you seem to have some kind of out-of-body recollection almost, was that you heard the doctors pronounce you dead. You heard that, right? What was your reaction? What did you hear?
I'm glad I couldn't get up and do what I wanted to do.
You wanted to get up and shake them and say, I'm still in here, I'm alive?
Probably would have been a broken window if they went out.
Meanwhile, though, you do have something. You have that pocket knife with you. When you look at this pocket knife now and you think the symbolicness of this, the fact that this is what they rubbed on the bottom of your foot, Dan and Christy, your cousins, what do you think when you look at that thing?
It just makes me thankful. Makes me thankful that they didn't give up.
And this third story involves, yet again, a family member stepping in, only in this case, he did it in a different way. In 2015, George Pickering was 27 years old and living in Pinehurst, Texas. He suffered a stroke and became unresponsive. He was placed on life support. Apparently, George had a history of seizures and had been comatose for periods of time before. This time, the doctors declared George severely brain damaged and unable to recover. George's mother and brother consented to organ donation, and plans were made to wean him off the life support machines. George's father adamantly disagreed with the assessment. He had seen his son come out of comas before, and he pleaded with the hospital staff to give him more time. His requests were denied. At that point, he took matters into his own hands.
Local media say parts of the Tomball Regional Medical Center were evacuated after reports that a man had barricaded himself with his sick son inside the critical care unit.
And a Christmas happy ending to a chilling story for one Texas family to tell you about, where a desperate father had to take a gun to save his son's life. Stay with me here. Not from criminals, but from medics. 11 months ago, 27-year-old George Pickering III was within an inch of death, lying in a critical care unit after a massive stroke. But doctors declared him brain dead indeed, and proved taking him off life support. That was too much for his dad. This guy was even placed on an organ donation register with the consent of his mother and brother. Well, the story goes on. His distraught father could not believe that that was the only option. So, as I said, he marched him to hospital with a gun.
Pointing the gun like that. We immediately got security and called 911.
Well, the incident resulted in a lengthy standoff with police, after which the dad surrendered. His lawyer told us how events unfolded after that.
Towards the end of the standoff, which was about 3 hours long, he felt his son squeeze his hand. And about that time, the SWAT team had actually opened the door to the critical care room, and he had surrendered to the police. The SWAT team had their own doctors, and when their own doctors entered into the critical care room, they saw that my client's son was not brain dead because he was making eye contact, he was following their commands, and they were completely amazed at this.
I had no intentions of hurting anybody. I brandished a pistol and I asked them to get out of the room. I told them it was my time to be with my son.
Pickering said he brought the gun because he was going to kill himself if his son was going to die.
I ended up holding my son's hand and telling him to squeeze my hand. Squeeze my hand, son, squeeze my hand. And he did that 3 or 4 times during the time.
Finally, after 4 hours, Pickering surrendered. But he says it bought enough time to prove his son should live.
Shortly after that, George Pickering III came out of that coma and made a full recovery. However, his father was behind bars and had been sentenced to 10 months for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for that incident. Charges, though, were finally dropped, and he's been released this month. The father and son are now back together for Christmas.
They were moving too fast. The hospital, the nurses, the doctors.
There was a law broken, but it was broken for all the right reasons. I'm here now because of it.
I don't think that he would have survived, but for the fact that his father slowed the process down.
During the 3-hour standoff with the SWAT team, I would have to assume that no drugs were being administered, since no staff was allowed in the room, and I have to wonder if that may have contributed to George waking up right around that time. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe.